Welcome to another episode of the 100% podcast with me, your host, Harry Purdy. Today, the show is joined by a new guest. Bradley Rix is a friend. He is my current mentor. He is a transformational body and mind coach. He has been there and done that in the business game, the health game, the mindset game, and with his own game as well. Brad, welcome to the show, mate. It's great to have you here.
Mate, absolute pleasure. I've been well and long overdue, and I'm sure this will be one of many in the bank.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think that's one of the things when I was sat here thinking about the notes that I could take into the show today to get information out of you, to give the best value to our listeners or my listeners, is how on earth do I get a genuine script, conversation, questions wrote down for somebody who can almost talk about every element of the personal development game. But what would you honestly say is your best skill set in coaching?
Do you know what, mate? It's actually quite difficult because if you ask me at different times of different situations, I'd probably come up with different answers. I think one of my best probably assets in terms of coaching is the ability to adapt in different situations. So like regardless whether it's personal or business or like whatever it is that you're going through, I think being able to coach yourself is quite a difficult aspect, but to be able to coach yourself from different angles, I think is really, really important. So for example, as we know, questions are fucking huge in terms of actually how to come up to answers and how to actually coach yourself. But I'm very good at probably almost stepping out of my own body to question myself, if that makes any sense. You know, like when you're going through a difficult situation or you've got a tough decision to make or you've got something that needs to be done, a lot of the time it's very easy to get caught up in your emotions with trying to make a decision. And over the years, one of the skills that I've probably developed more than ever, which I've needed over the past few years, is being able to step out of myself and ask myself questions as if I'm not Bradley, if that makes sense at all.
Totally makes sense. I think it's one of the conversations I've spoke about a couple of times on the show with other coaches mainly, is it's really interesting, I think, that coaches tend to find themselves coaching on the things that they've struggled with the most in the past. And with you, obviously, mindset and physical health is some of the things that you work on with people on a way more deeper level than that. But would you agree with that sentiment that you normally end up teaching the thing that you've struggled with the most?
100%. I think it's natural progression. As we develop in certain things, we always want to teach people that like we're like a step ahead of. You know, we've at least, you know, we can advise someone, I've been here, this is what I did to get the next step. These are the other ways that you can do it. Like I think coaching as a whole, from anyone that's lost fat, if you look at anyone that's typically a fat loss coach, most good fat loss coaches that actually have a viable business and have a great relationship with their clients typically have been on a fat loss journey themselves. Like same with, if you look at people who want to develop muscle tissue, they naturally gravitate towards coaches who have struggled with putting on muscle tissue or putting on weight, and they naturally fall into that category. I think the reason why people fall into that at the same time is you've got to have a level of passion for it, and you won't have a level of passion for something unless you've had to overcome, work hard, and actually reap the rewards of that. So I think, you know, as a coach in all fields, and similar with yourself and stuff that we've discovered recently working together, is you can only convince or help guide people to do things that you actually are passionate about because you've gone and done it.
Agreed, mate. Totally agree. In terms of the physical stuff, then we'll speak about it like now because we'll gradually get more deep as we go along with you. I think, mate.
100%.
I know you've been on your own journey when it comes to physical health, and I know you've got yourself to incredibly lean moments in your life. For you, though, what is the balance between staying lean 100% of the time to enjoying life and making sure that you're as physically and mentally healthy as possible as you possibly can be?
So I'd be lying if I said that I've had all of them things figured out at once. And there's loads of reasons for that. So some I'm not too sure if you're aware, like I have quite a few health conditions, medical conditions. I live with chronic pain on a day-to-day basis. I won't go into the list of all them bits and bobs, but like I've had a lot of stuff go on. So multiple surgeries on my hands, ligament tears, damages, spinal problems. I've been in incredible shape where I've been extremely depressed, suicidal, and miserable. And then I've been quite fat again, but happy. So it's like to try and balance them all. I think it's the only way that I can ever describe it is like you're always putting out you're always putting out fires. And I believe everybody, I don't really think there is so much thing as a pure balance. And I think the only people that can say balance is like people that are extremely high in life, where they don't have many responsibilities or they don't have many problems. When you get someone like myself that's got 2 kids, you've got a family, a separated family as well, and you come from a lot of dysfunction. I've just learned, rather than trying to use the word balance and having a hold on everything, it's more of a case of being able to analyze which is causing the biggest problem, or which is the thing that needs the work on most, or what needs fixing, and diverting your energy and attention to it. So, for example, like during the stages where I had 3 lots of hand reconstructive surgery, I put on a lot of body fat again. Training was something that I couldn't do, and it made me feel really shit. It made me feel really depressed. It made me feel really low. And all my years of being in great shape, strong, and having all these things I'd overcome, my pain started getting worse because I was becoming more immobile. So it became quite obvious the biggest fire that was causing me the biggest problem was with mental health. So then I had to ask myself the questions: what is it about my mentality that I'm now struggling with? Well, it's because I didn't have control over training. And having to ask yourself the relevant questions. Well, now I need to focus on this. If this is now my biggest problem because this is now being taken away from me, I can either sit there and still fucking moan and complain about this and let my problem be worse, or I can now divert my attention and action over here. So in terms of balance, I've not ever quite nailed balance in all areas of my life, but I've become very good at quickly identifying which one's becoming the thing holding me back, and then diverting a percentage of my attention there. I think I personally don't believe balance is a real thing, in the sense of like how you've always got all the plates spinning and they're always going absolutely fine. I genuinely do believe every area is going to have times that it requires more attention and times that are less. I think the ability to just be able to quickly take action once you realize there's a problem, I think that's the key to like keeping it as round as possible.
I love that answer. A, because it's really honest, and B, because I very much can relate to what you're saying at the moment. Believe it or not, I've noticed the pod is taking a little bit more of a back seat on my thought process and agenda recently as we sit here recording one. And the reason for that is because I'm training for the London Marathon whilst trying to essentially be a bit of a hybrid athlete and get my 3 PBs in my SBD, squat, bench, and deadlift, as well as trying to upgrade things on the Harry Purdy coaching, 100% coaching business as well. So from a forefront where the podcast was the easy thing to fall back on, let's just go with 3 months ago, like, and it was the one thing that I just keep ticking over, keep posting the socials, blah blah blah. It's now gone completely the other way, and now I'm talking about the business more, and I'm focused on my fitness rather than just the pod. And you can kind of see like 100% what you're explaining there. That's 3 plates, and there's a couple more going on as well. That you notice that one of the plates will just start slowing down a little bit whilst you're having to focus on the other two and keep them moving around a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing to balance. Like, and again, you and me speak a lot outside of this, and it is one of the things you have to understand that, like, to make something propel, move forward, is going to require more attention. It's going to require more energy. I don't think it's safe to say, if we look at the bodybuilding realm as a prime example, a lot of bodybuilders that are great bodybuilders that are very open about their journey, they'll explain that when they're going through prep, when they're ready to compete, their family, their social life, all that stuff takes a hit. So is there really balance? No, I just think there's dedicated times and allocations to specific areas, but over the space of a course of, let's say, a year, as long as you're paying attention to each one of them and none of them are really going out of whack. I think rather than it being more about balance, it's about how can we create more of like an even field with all of these areas, so that like not one's completely outstandingly overwhelmed or one's not completely underperforming. How do we create that? Well, this is accelerating now I need to do this. And just to touch on one other thing, sometimes business will have to take a forefront, especially for those listening that are coaches. Sometimes you feel like you don't have a life because all you got to do is focus on business, and you actually just have to recognize, well, you need to do that grunt work to get to a certain point, so that then you can pivot and then you can direct your attention back onto your family life, your personal life, your own personal goals, your health, your hobbies, your interests, whatever it may be. Like, sometimes that just has to happen, and to think that they can all be worked on equally at the same time is almost like, that illustration where it's like a circle and it's like drawing little lines at different lengths all over the place. It's much easier to achieve something by focusing mainly on one thing and keeping a peripheral vision on the others. And then just, like I was saying earlier, having the ability to know when you need to divert your attention and take action quickly. That's what I believe.
Yeah, and it's a fine balance. We spoke about this the other day as well. In the self-development game, especially when it comes to spiritual and looking after yourself, there's a lot of talk around actually taking things away from your life rather than adding them can be the thing that gets you results. But then from a business front, there's never really that many angles you can come at from a business front and earning money and putting work in and giving value and then speaking to clients and then whatever else comes alongside in the next part of the chain that takes away jobs or takes away tasks from your day to day. So what's the balance there for you? I say balance. We don't agree. We're not thinking balances, but we're what's the way that you would solve that yourself? Like, do you take away or do you add on?
I think what you have to understand, this applies to everything, the same with the family, the business, like anything, is if you're gonna, if as we said before, if you add more to a life, something else typically has to give. But if it's something that you have to add and you can't give something, you have to add it in a way that has a lot less friction. So as like you grow in a coaching business, you become more busy. If you become more busy, you have less time to be social, you have less time to do other things. So that's when then you might need to go ahead and change processes on how you do this. Like if I was to want to give my one-to-one clients even more of my time, but that means I'm taking time away from me or I'm taking time away from my family, what can I balance, tweak, change in order to make that more sustainable and fluid? Like for me, I know personally when I go really focused into certain elements of my life, I'm really terrible at focusing on the other things. As I said, like it's about putting out them fires. But if there's something that I have to consistently add to and other things sacrifice, I either have to be willing for that sacrifice long term or something has to change. It's as simple as that. You
Yeah,
can't keep adding something that doesn't align with what you want and what you want to do.
amazing, mate. In terms of yourself, then, Brad, I said the podcast would probably go a little deeper. You are the true definition of transformation in many aspects of the word, right? Like you said, you've been as lean as you like, maybe not as happy as you liked at that point, but then, of course, you got yourself sorted out on a mentality capacity as well. You had or you have had some amazing success with legitimate businesses coming from having success with illegitimate businesses as well in your past, as well
But you
as
can, it depends on how you want to look at it, really, doesn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. But really, mate, like I think when it comes to obviously not becoming a victim to your circumstances and life, you are a great example of that. But where did that journey start for you?
This would take a long time for me to go through, so I'm going to have to bite size it. And I genuinely believe, like we've already spoke, we would end up needing to dive in, and these would probably be separate
Yeah, yeah.
pods, all in their own right. So to give you like a bit of a background, essentially, I was brought up in a very different environment to a lot of people. Like, mother was an alcoholic, cokehead, bit of a crackhead. Dad was a heroin addict. So, like, lots of drugs, lots of abuse, lots of neglect, lots of violence. Seen a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have to see growing up. Growing up, those are probably some of the early stages of what led to me to having like eating disorders, you know, lots of binging, lots of whatever. I never really had food cooked for me because parents always on drugs or, you know, something along them lines. Dad went to prison, so I never had a father figure around. So it was just my mum. Mum didn't want me. She always just had some abusive drug dealing boyfriend that she always had around. So again, I was very much neglected, had to learn and figure out how to grow up, how to be, you know, fend for myself. And from the age of like 7 and 8 years old, I remember I'd get, this is probably where some of the entrepreneurial stuff started from, if I'm actually honest with you. 7, 8 years old, I used to get given money by my mum's friends, and I would be led down to the shop to go and get food for them, drinks for them, whatever it is they wanted, snacks, whatever it was. And let's say, for example, they gave me 20, 30 quid to go and get this stuff. I used to learn that they'd say I could keep the change, but there was never much change left over. But as a child of that age, I mean, it's the same age as my kids, and I was doing this, and it really puts things into perspective for me that I was going to the shops realizing I had not much change left over, so I couldn't buy myself anything. Couldn't buy myself sweets. Couldn't really buy myself anything to eat, and there wasn't much food at me for home because again, I wasn't really fed, and the stuff I wasn't really cooked for. So I thought, how can I start buying stuff? How can I start utilizing this? And the sad thing is, I used to start robbing from the shops. So I'd literally be between the ages of 7 and 9, walk into the shops down the road from where the house was, which back then I make it sound like I'm really old. That was quite normal. Nowadays, not in any chance it is. But I'd walk into the shops money and I'd be hiding stuff down my trousers. I'd be putting stuff up my top. Why? So that when I then purchased the items I did, I had more money there. So that I could go and buy myself stuff. I could go and buy myself some food. I could buy myself some sweets. I could buy myself a can of Coke or whatever it is of them, that sort of nature. And it very much quickly become that if I wanted something, I had to earn it, and I had to earn it in certain ways. And what I learned from a very young age is that people that were being weird because they was on drugs, were quite easily manipulated. And so for me as a person, I naturally started doing things for money for them all. So I'd be like making cups of tea, or I'd be starting to make pot noodles and things like that for them. And I'd charge my mum's mates money for it. But this is how I ended up in a position where growing up, I realized I had to fend for myself. And it was like that my whole entire life, which led to other things which we will touch on. But essentially, I had two younger brothers, one with a high level of autism and another one with no issues at all. And when they were born, they were very much loved and looked after, which is a really, really tough thing for me. And at this age, I was 11, 12 when my first brother was along, 15 when my next brother was along. But during this whole time, they were kind of getting things that they wanted. Bearing in mind they were little, so they're buying, getting bought new toys and stuff like that. There was me moving up into secondary school, worried about, well, would I get bullied because I've got old trainers? Would I be dealing with problems like this? I'd ask my mum for stuff, and what would I get? Fuck off, you ungrateful little shit. Go get in your room. And I'd be climbing out the window and disappearing. But I ended up in this constant psychological thing: is I'm not good enough. You know, I didn't want to be around from a young age. I'd been dealing with stuff that I'd had to deal with. None of my friends had problems like that I had to deal with. And I wanted things, and I'd see my friends getting new clothes, new shoes, new stuff. And a boy of that age, it's all you really think about, isn't it? You know, between the ages of 9 to like 13, 12, 30, you want all this cool shit. Like, you see stuff, you want it. You want the newest games. You want the newest. And I didn't have any of that. I wouldn't get presents at Christmas. You know, I wouldn't get birthday presents. I'd get maybe a card if I was lucky, if it was even remembered, you know. But I see my younger brother getting all sorts, left, right, and center. I was very much like the child that wasn't wanted, essentially. And this led me to furtherly more doing similar things to make money. So I ended up, my mum with her boyfriends and stuff like that, obviously selling drugs and doing stuff. I'd go and run it for them and make money. Why? So that I could then buy clothes. I could buy shoes, so that I had the newest shoes in school. I had the newest clothes in school. I was able to buy lunch at school while other people were, instead of like buying snacks to have as like a packed lunch. And I ended up in this process of just realizing that in order for me to survive, for me to adapt, I had to be able to move quickly and figure out things to do. Otherwise, my life would just be more and more difficult. And I think it went through a consistent, repetitive process. And I don't know how deep you want me to get in this, because it would take me a long time. But essentially, that was my life, consistently growing up, problem after problem after problem, fending for myself. At the age of 15, 16, I was renting out my first flat, using money that I was making in all sorts of ways, from selling cans of Coke, sweets, Powerades, fags, you name it, in school. I had the kids in the older years on their mopeds. I'd be paying them to go off to the shops to restock for me so I could sell more inside of the school. Had people inside of the school also selling for me, which again, natural progression, just like we were speaking about at the very beginning, natural progression led me into selling things that I knew people wanted and were easy to sell because I was surrounded by it throughout my whole youth. So I had a very warped perception of, like, I didn't have a childhood. My whole childhood was essentially just surviving, always in a state of fight or flight, always, you know, struggling for like what was going to happen. And I won't go too deep on this podcast because it'll end up being really fucking depressing. But essentially, I had to consistently be in a situation of, when am I next going to get fed? When am I next going to have this? If I want something, how am I going to get it? And in my thought process just started having to change to, how do I get it? And I become quite guiltless in any approach that it is that I made in order to acquire the things that I needed, because it was, well, if you don't, no one's going to do it for you, you know?
Unreal, but not unreal at the same time. I think what's like, why I say unreal is you see examples of people who have had tough upbringings, and through no fault of their own, they become kind of part of their, it's almost like a self-written prophecy, right? That they've been brought up in these environments, and then obviously there were parts of what you did that weren't kosher, but of course there were parts that were kosher, and it allowed you to develop a real positive, resilient, more so resilient and positive mindset at a really early age, which
Yeah, I
some
mean, like,
people.
sorry, just to give you a concept, just to give a little bit of a bigger picture, like, I didn't, my mind and my world around that, I'm nearly 33, and I didn't really change until like 22, when I
Mm,
nearly got slammed with a prison sentence for, again, illegitimate actions. And what was really awkward at the time is, on my 21st birthday, so my birthday is 11th of May, and on the 11th of May, I had social services turn up at my door with my 13-year-old and 8-year-old brother being fully given into my care, full custody into my care for just over a year, because they were taken off my mum from, she was off the drugs at this stage, heavy drugs anyways, but she's alcoholic, and she's in a very violent relationship with, again, somebody who was an alcoholic and a recreational drug user, and they were placed into my care at the age of 21. You know, at this stage, I was up to no good to make money because I was providing for me and who was the mother of my children at the time, and she was pregnant with our first child, and I was also running a window cleaning business. And the reason I had this window cleaning business was actually I needed to find a way to be able to put money in a bank that seemed legitimate, because all I'd known growing up my whole entire life was I can make money. I've gone through stages where I was importing clothes and trainers into the country. There's a lot. I could really go on for deep about all sorts of stuff that I used to do, which I'm not really proud of, but I don't regret a single element of it. I don't regret the life that I've been brought up with. Yes, it's caused me a lot of trauma and problems that I've had to work through, but I don't regret any of it because it's taught me so many invaluable lessons that I've been blessed enough to help other people with, as you know, similar to yourself and, you know, a few other people, as well as all the people that I've coached over the past decade. It's these things that I think are critical, which has led to me being a great coach in the sense of being able to understand people, explain things, and empathize with where they're at. But like, I went through all of this with a very warped perception of, like, don't get me wrong, I was extremely depressed, suicidal, many suicide attempts, which again, I think we said we'll speak about on another time. Like, there's some real dark stuff that happened. But it's because my whole perception of life had only been surrounded by, like, everyone I knew was just make loads of money, selling drugs, doing whatever, go to prison, do your time, come out, rinse, repeat. This, everyone I knew, that was just the life that it was. And it's kind of like what I'd accepted for myself. I accepted that that was it. I accepted that was the life that people have. And during all this, as you can imagine, I was a proper fat shit as well, because I did nothing but eat crap, takeaways multiple times a day, ordering, because I was making this money in all sorts of ways. I didn't have any cooking skills. You know, I didn't have anything like that. I become a direct result of my surroundings and my environment. I literally become all that I knew from all the things that I was surrounded by on a day-to-day basis. And it was that environment which created me and who it was that I become. And it wasn't until the wake-up call of nearly going to prison, and one of the only reasons I kind of like didn't was because my partner at the time was pregnant with my first child. I had an autistic Asperger's brother who would be lost into the social care system, as well as Tyler, my youngest brother. If it wasn't for the fact that the work that I'd done with them during that year, because I had nurtured them, looked after them, cared for them, fed them, done all the things that were never done to me, they excelled so well in school that the actual defending party for me was essentially like, this person is doing what he needs to do to survive. This is the life that he's had. This is the responsibilities he's had, and this is what he's done. He needs a second chance. If it wasn't for that wake-up call, like, you know, who knows? But it was that which made me then change my environment, which then led me into a world of where we are today, which is something I'm sure we'll touch on.
Yeah, impressive. Really impressive, mate. And one question I've got before I ask you what the caveat for change was, or what the part of change, or what caused, and what did you do to change. Dax Moy on the pod last week or the week before last, basically we were speaking about how people can become victims to their environments and their upbringings and stuff. And the example that he used was two siblings brought up in the same household, domestic violence. One can go on and live their life. I'm never gonna hit my mum. I'm never gonna hit my partner. Blah blah blah. That's not how I want to live my life. The other one can do that and blame their circumstances for that reason, for their actions. Sorry. Why do you think you chose the opposite? Of course, you dabbled in a few things that weren't utterly legitimate, but also your values stayed really strong. You're clearly a family man. You wanted to bring up your own children in a really good way. Why do you think that that was your mindset rather than sticking to what you knew?
So it's mad because I did this whole talk for Luke John Harrison, like I told you, and it was all about how to break the victim mentality, because actually I was a victim of my circumstances forever. And I always blamed that I'd never be good enough. I wasn't able to achieve anything else because I can't do this because my mum and dad do this. I will never achieve this because all my family are on benefits. I can't do. That was me my whole entire life. And I was like that forever. And even with all these circumstances, yes, the court case and all them issues led me to like needing to make a change, but I had to go through such a personal journey that unfortunately, my partner at the time, we ended up having a miscarriage through everything that went on. And I couldn't obviously be up to no good. I had to find ways to legitimately make money. I had to change my life. I'd cut off all my friends. I'd cut off all my friends were left, right, and center going to prison, for different reasons and in different areas from where it is that I'm from. And I realized like I can't be around that anymore because it just meant that like everyone else would suffer without me gone. And which was very bizarre because at the time I thought nobody wanted me, nobody cared about me, and I'm better off dead. Typical victim mindset of my circumstances. But for some reason I just kept sticking around. And at this time, I'd started being sent stuff off Paul Moore, which we obviously both in as well as. And this guy loved him to pieces, loved what he said, but at the same time, I thought he was full of shit. Like in the sense of like, I thought he was full of shit. And I'm sure he'll listen to this clip and it'll be funny, right? But thought he was full of shit. I was like, yeah, it's all well and good for him, but not everybody can do that. You've not had the life I've had. You've not been brought up by addicts. You've not been beaten. You've not had this. You've not had... that whole shit comes into my head. And I actually remember so clearly, fast forward a little bit, I'd spent years in this state, years in a depressive suicidal state. I'd been on sertraline, citalopram, like antidepressant after antidepressant, like different types of therapy from CBT, like whole different types of like therapy to still feel like utter shit. And I was just living my day to day hoping that things would get better, right? And I decided one day that as we were trying for a child after 2 miscarriages, so again, that caused a lot of problems. When this happens, I don't want to be that fat dad, but maybe the reason this keeps happening is because of me being so fat and unhealthy. So I need to do something about it. So I went on a weight loss journey that was very unhealthy, from doing things completely wrong, being a complete keto Karen, eating less than like 600 calories a day, doing
Oh,
nothing
wow.
cardio. I dropped an extensive like 8 stone within like 4 or 5 months, ended up looking gaunt and like a crackhead. And the wake up call for me that I was doing it wrong was actually somebody from my past pulled me to the side and bumped into me and genuinely thought I was on crack and asked me, have you lost all this weight because you've gone down the same route as your dad? So it was a big wake up call for me. But during this journey of like, I started to regain the weight and all this other stuff, as you can imagine, I started getting depressed again and really bad because I thought I'd done really well. I'd lost all this weight just to realize I looked really unhealthy and really ill. So my mindset was fucking flamed. And I really wanted to get a handle on myself. And I was really, when like you start again, and I know you'll experience this, you start having little hopes of optimism, of that actually maybe something could be different. But 80% of the time, your mind was stuck in a very negative loop. But I was like, why am I suddenly now starting to get this glimpse of like, maybe things can be different. Maybe things can. And even though I lost weight and I failed because of the approach and the things that I do now and knowing what I did now, I'd actually achieved something for the first time. Something that I was actually proud of. What I didn't realize until now, when I look back, actually, I achieved a lot of things growing up, but I never seen it that way because I was too much of a victim. I was like, why did this happen to me? Whereas actually, I made the best out of every single situation that happened without really taking recognition and acknowledgement for it, right? Fast forward, so we don't go through it too deep, is obviously regained a lot of weight. And over time, with knowledge and education, there's me with my window cleaning business still, because I still kept that somehow. Didn't burn it to the ground or just bin it. Every day I was doing nothing but listening to podcasts and audiobooks on people like Paul Moore, Ben Coomber, Lane Norton, some of the OGs in the industry, and just educating myself as much as I can. And as you can imagine, 6 to 8 hours a day window cleaning, all by yourself, just listening to this stuff. I started putting pieces together. So I started this weight loss journey again. I started in gym. I started doing things properly, let's say. Flexibility, not eliminating foods, not being a fucking keto Karen, not eliminating carbs.
Poor Karen gets a lot of fucking slack in the fitness industry, doesn't she?
We're going to see in 20 years' time, nobody's called Karen. Nobody's naming
Yeah.
their Karen. But as I realized, I started getting so focused on the fitness side of things, I naturally started to feel better. But there was such a deep level of me that was still so depressed, still so stuck in this victim, like, I'll never achieve these things that I want because of this. So I just kind of latched onto the fitness and it become my identity. I started getting really good. It started getting great results, compliments all the time on how I look. So I naturally just started helping people for free. But the biggest wake up call for me, and this I kind of don't want to drag this out, is
That's good, mate. Carry on.
I was actually having a really down day. At this stage, my first child was here, and I felt very fraudulent as a dad because I didn't feel a connection. Do you know when he was born? I actually 4 hours after he was born, I said, "Do you mind if I go to the gym?" Because he was asleep in the hospital, and so was the mum. I didn't feel anything. Learn that's actually quite normal for a lot of dads, especially in the beginning phases, right? But like, I actually thought there was something wrong with me. And as he got to a few months old, I still felt nothing. I felt really shit. I felt really bad as a person. I just started spiraling in this big depression. I had abs. I was in incredible shape, but I felt like a miserable shit. And I thought I looked like shit because I was so caught up in my mindset. I was like, I'm never going to be a good dad because I didn't have a dad. I'm never going to be a good dad. I'm never going to have the type of family I want. I'm always going to be a disappointment. So off I sent on a venture to go and kill myself. And I was on a motorway, M3 in particular. And I was doing like I think it was 117 miles an hour before I closed my eyes. And just put my foot down, just closed my eyes and just wanted to see what happened. Like genuinely planned on it just being done, being over. And I remember for some random reason, whether I was pulling out of it, mentally, I just couldn't commit to it. But I remember I just opened my eyes and just went flying past this car and I just got a glimpse of Batman, a Batman car seat. It's really weird because I'm surrounded by Batman everywhere for many reasons. But his Batman car seat was the exact same car seat as what my son Riley had. And all of a sudden, guilt kicked over me. Everything kicked over me. I was like, I do not want to be the person who is responsible for my son growing up thinking that he wasn't worth it or good enough, that his dad killed himself. And I didn't want him to be in a very similar situation to me. What's really weird, the reason why this whole Batman is Batman was literally like my childhood savior because it was the only thing that I had growing up. Batman toys, a TV with some Batman videos that I used to watch. It was the only thing that I had when I was a kid. It's the only thing that I can remember about my childhood that I actually fully remember other than bad imagery and bad recollections was just Batman. He was like my little mini savior, let's say, like the person I'd fascinated all the time that was going to save me as a child. And I seen this and I remember pulling over and like slowing my car right down. But by slowing it down right down, I also nearly spun it out of control with, losing traction from it. And I pulled over into lay-by and I just burst in tears, like fucking, I literally was vomiting from just crying so much. And I've not cried in years. Like I was such a numb emotional person for all these years. And I messaged the mother of my children at the time. She rang me straight away and I told her exactly what I did. And she was like, just stay there. Like, don't drive until you feel safe to drive. And then please just come straight home. And it was the very next day I signed up with Paul Mott. The very next day, she made me, right? Because same sort of thing. The thing that made him not jump was Leslie turning around and saying, think of the kids. And it was the same concept for me. So I was like, I need to be better. I have to be better. I don't want my kids I don't want my misfortune, my bad luck, the life that I went through. I don't want that to be the same future for them. So if there's anything that I can do in this world, I was like, even if it means that I just find a way to cope for the rest of my life so that they can have an exceptional life, that will be it for me. And obviously it was the first sort of processes where I started to learn self-reflection inside of the program, which we know is a huge part of what it is that we do. And that's when I started to be able to look back and look at all the stuff I'd overcome and achieved. So from a perspective of what changed me from a coach perspective was that ability to self-reflect, to even though things were negative and bad, I was able to see good in bad situations. I was able to see positive in bad situations. I was able to see my resilience against bad situations. So there's me all this time thinking I'm a very weak, vulnerable person. Or if anything, it couldn't be anything further from the opposite. But when you're stuck feeling like a victim, when you're stuck feeling trapped, when you're stuck feeling like the world is against you, you soon start to be able to realize once you've developed that skill set to self-reflect actually how much you do overcome, how much resilience you do have, how much strength it actually does take to deal with all that. And I think that was probably like the first real change where I'd gone from having these little hopes of optimism because of my body transformation and the change and the compliments and all the stuff I was getting. It meant the only thing that kept me on with that was the compliments. I was getting attention, something I didn't have my whole entire life growing up. So as you can imagine, you suddenly start getting attention because of how you look and the stuff that you're creating. You latch onto it, which is why I was never satisfied with my body. Because as I started getting in better shape, the compliments become less. I started posting my before and after pictures more often just to get more likes and more comments, just to feel more validated as a person. And I almost relied on that just to kind of get by. So, that was probably the real turning point of my life when I was able to actually start reflecting and looking at, actually, I'm not a victim. I'm actually somebody that does overcome a lot of stuff and can get through it all. But it wasn't until I learned how to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, mate, that's powerful stuff. I had goosebumps. The Batman car seat, like, yeah, got me a little bit
Yeah, I've
because,
got Batman everywhere. We've got the
yeah.
Batman here, got a Batman desk mat. Like, it's a constant reminder. I've got Batman everywhere in here. You'd think I'm a little geek.
In terms of parenthood, do you think it becomes your biggest purpose as a man when you finally have a child?
I think with what I went through, I really struggle as a dad. I really do. Like, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't come natural to me. So when I've got the kids, like, what should I do with them? I have to like Google what things to do with a 7 and 9 year old boy. Like, no shit, right? Because
Get the Batman figures out, bro.
honestly, mate, like, it's something that I struggled with, and even like Christmases and birthdays, they're not natural things to me because I never celebrated them growing up. They weren't a thing for me. So it's a very hard thing. Like, Christmas used to be a very depressing time with me until I had kids, and it still was. And I had to learn to like it. I had to learn to. In fact, I hosted a Christmas a couple of years ago with my mum and with family members that I don't want, and I did that for the sake of my own children. And I learned to let my negativity of Christmas away with it. It was a huge point for me. I did a big post about it. It was actually really a really big thing for me. I have actually cut out all the family members now, more for the sake of like other aspects and through another level of growth. But it was something that I realized that I hated Christmas and I was so jealous of other people. Same as birthdays. I see people celebrating posts and images, and I used to just want to fucking shut social media off on every single level just because it used to just piss me off seeing it all. Um, but that was just because I never experienced this. As a parent, yeah, one of my biggest missions is to be like the best dad I could be, do the best thing to make sure my kids have the best memories possible. But then there is also a caveat to that because I never had that. I don't know what that looks like. So in my head, I always wanted to just earn more money and do more things for money so I could buy them more things and buy them more experience. And it led to me actually not being a very present dad for a lot of their life. So there's a lot of lessons I'm still learning now with them being 7 and 9 years old, nearly 8 and 10. And that all stems from because I never had it. So it's not like, like some people get taught from their dad how to shave or how to do this or how. I've never had anything like that from male or female role models. I've had to be my role model. As a direct result, that also causes a lot of problems,
Yeah.
that you have to unlearn as you get older.
You say you've learned a lot from being a parent. What's the biggest lesson that you've got from being a parent?
Whether you're fucking tired or not, tough shit, you've got to do it. There's shit that has to be done. Regardless whether you're a parent, not even just in a parent, life lesson. Life doesn't care if you're fucking exhausted or not. If there's shit that needs to be done, it needs to be fucking done. As you get older and you've got responsibilities, houses, businesses, clients, people, you've got shit that needs to be done still. You have to sometimes, you literally do have to fuck your feelings and do it anyways.
Suck it up a bit.
You do, otherwise, like, then problems are still going to be there. You can't just shut off from the world. Sometimes you've just still got to get shit done regardless how you feel. And I learned that more so ever when I become a parent, because if the kid's crying, they need fucking feeding.
Mm.
They need looking after. And it wasn't until I become a parent that I become much better at running my own business and helping people in other areas. Because if I felt like shit, I just wouldn't do anything. And then as I had done, I realized, actually, fuck, if I feel like shit, I still got to do that. And it led me to building a bit more resilience in that mind muscle with, I've still got to get shit done regardless of how it is that I feel.
I think that correlates, doesn't it? Like you say, not just in parenting, but in any goal chasing, in any fat loss journey. If, for example, I was to wake up on, like, at the moment, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, my run days for the London Marathon. So like, if I was to wake up on one of those days and go, I'm too tired to get this training running, well, I'm not going to get the result at the end of it, am I?
Yeah,
And there's
exactly.
a lot of, one thing I am noticing recently is kind of a new takeaway for me, that the basic things that you can take from weight loss coaching to mental health coaching to self development, that all of them have really relative patterns within each other. And if you can just apply the patterns from goal A, let's go with improving your mentality, to goal B, which is being able to run a 10K, to goal C, becoming a better parent, for example, if that's your bag, or getting a better podcast, right? There are going to be things within that you can apply to all three goals. The basics always do the work. They always end up getting you results in the end, and they sometimes there's like a pattern, right? What am I not doing in this goal that I'm doing in the one that I'm getting results? Oh, I'm turning up when I'm tired here, but I'm not doing things I said I would when I'm tired here. Ah, big flag.
And I
Like,
think it is this delayed gratification, being able to have delayed gratification. Anything. Think about weight loss journey, right? The people who initially can stick to it and stay motivated and stay like hyperactive in it and be super focused is because initially they get fast results. They'll get faster results. It requires less effort to get them faster results until their body has a level of adaptation or life circumstances or energy goes anywhere, right? And it's been able to look for that delayed gratification going, well, I know that what I do now pays off later rather than I'm doing this hard work, it better pay off at the end of the week. As a parent, you can't expect your child to suddenly start behaving better initially just because you tell them off. And it's where a lot of people do parenting wrong as well. And I used to do this immensely. You tell your kid off and you expect their behavior just to fucking change straight away. Same with dogs. I've got 2 dogs, as you know. Like same with puppies. You can't just tell them to not do something and behave. You have to help them make that behavior, reward that behavior. Before you know it, 3 months time, they're not pissing on your carpet anymore. And it's the same within business. I don't want to do this stuff. I don't want to message people. I don't want to speak to people. I don't want to offer my services. I don't want to jump on a call with people. But the more that you do that, it's later on you've got the revenue that enables you to be a better coach. It enables you to unlock more stuff. So something that I know that I say helping people with business, for example, is like money isn't the root of what most people, from all the coaches that I've met, money isn't normally the main driving factor. It's the ability to give value and help more people. The problem is they lack the money to be able to do that. And money is a tool to unlock the ability to reach and help more people. So it's the same process in everything, being able to delay the gratification, going, okay, I'm not going to get the immediate return on this right now, but I'm going to later on. But you've got to do the fucking work now to make it happen. Like if you don't do the work now, 6 weeks time, you'll notice you're still not getting the result. You start doing the work and you do it consistently for long enough, you start seeing the result, then guess what? You're fine in doing the actions every single day because you see it. Same as like when you got someone on a big weight loss journey or a fitness journey, or like you with the marathon running, you'll notice that your time will be better. And then you'll be more than willing to wake up because you're like, I want to beat that time. I want to beat that time. You're okay with the delayed gratification now because like you've started seeing the actual compound effect of them at daily actions. Whereas I think a lot of people in the whole aspect, just to like tie that all in, it is the fact that they want to do something today and expect to see a result tomorrow morning as a direct result of it. And in every single area of life, it doesn't fucking work that way. And what I probably didn't realize that I was doing growing up is I was still taking actions every single fucking day because I kind of had no choice. I wasn't happy about it, but I didn't realize the delayed gratification and what it provided me moving forwards. It developed me the resilience, the skill set, and the mindset to be able to see things in different ways. Whereas at the time, I just seen it as why the fuck should I be doing this? Poor me, poor this, life shit, blah, blah, blah. But because I was under a circumstance where I had to do it, I had no choice. Like I had to do that, which gave me the force for to do it. Problems that a lot of people have in this world right now is they've got far too many choices that they don't have their back up against the wall. We've got coaches that are struggling to build a coaching business. And it's like, well, you need to start doing this, and this. Oh, I know, but I just don't want to do it. Why? Because they've already got a roof over their head. They're not that stressed over it. You got people that want to lose fat so they feel better about themselves, but they're not willing to get up and do the work. Why? Because they've got a choice to not do the fucking work, and they just got to deal with what they got to do anyways. So, like certain circumstances, people it's finding that ability to go, well, how the fuck do I make it so I have to do this? Like, how do I put that pressure on me that forces me to do it? This is why accountability and things are so huge. This is why having mentors are so huge. Having coaches are so huge. Why? Because you're applying pressure and accountability. Otherwise, if you're emotionally responsible for saying yes or no, you will say yes or no, depending on what emotional state you wake up in that day.
and sometimes what the easy option is as well, right?
Oh, 100%. Like people will always lean into easy. And we do it all the time, regardless. Like sometimes you do it without even thinking about it because we just naturally groove into the easiest thing. But it's like the easy work doesn't give you the fucking great results. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, nothing great ever come from easy. That's one of my. I'll drop that on my Thursday night classes every week when they're struggling at the end of it. Nothing, yeah, nothing good ever come from easy, mate. One thing I want to switch it back to, obviously, mental health and looking after your state is something that you've put the work into. Clearly, from being in a state of like suicidal thoughts and actions, to where you are now. And one of the analogies that somebody who's getting to know me quite well said to me the other day, they were like, "You've clearly got your eggs all in one basket kind of thing, and you know how to look after yourself and keep yourself energized and positive, but you've definitely got one toe still in the dark side, which I totally agree with. But I know how to keep all other nine of them in the good side. How do you keep your mood and your state? What are like the three things that you'll do on a regular daily basis to make sure that your state and energy is good rather than drifting back into the dark side, let's just say?
So actually, I'd say I'm very different in this aspect. I don't know whether it's like I don't want to use the label ADHD, but I'm very much like I need variety all the time. There's a lot of things I need to do. I don't have like any necessary set things, but I just notice is I have to analyze a lot. But I notice I'm starting to feel a certain way. I need to get a pen and paper out. I need to write out. I need to visually see like what is it that I'm thinking, what is it I'm feeling, and then what actions need to be taken as a direct result of that. If I was to look at what some of the most key mental things that have to be done to stop me, let's say, going insane, I need to be learning something new. I need to be absorbing. I'm always absorbing. I'm implementing as well. But one of the things that I've always learned is whenever I'm not learning something or I'm not pursuing something that I want more education in or I want to level up on, I start staying stagnant. And when I stay stagnant, I feel shit. So whether that's working on something personal development, business, like marketing, like parenting, like whatever it may be, I need to be leveling up at something. I think that's the biggest one ever. You have to be leveling up. I don't care if it's the wrong thing, because you'll soon learn that it's the wrong thing. But as long as you are leveling up, think about this, right? Bit of a tangent, but
What the wrong thing, like a window cleaning business, right?
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
like, when we look at it, like, think about this, right? When do most people start falling into levels of depression and problems? It's typically once school's over or any level of further education is over. If you really go and look into it, right? Why is that? They're not leveling up on anything. They haven't got grades. They haven't got something to improve. They haven't got anything. They go straight from education, learning, development to dead end job, same shit, same day, same whatever. There's no movement. They'll stay in that same shit for fucking months. And if we look, most people get depressed. Why? They're not improving. They're not developing. They're not moving forward. They're staying in one fucking place, hoping for a promotion every 6 to 12 months. I don't care if you've got a dead end job like that, but as long as you're learning to improve somewhere, whether that's from reading a book, whether that's from daily exercise, whether that's from, and when I say exercise, you need exercise that is something that's measurable so you can see you improving. So for anyone listening here, if you're still going to your body pump classes and you're expecting to fucking level up from that, like you're being idiotic, it's great because you're moving. But if you wonder why you're not motivated to fucking do it, because you're not measuring, am I getting better at this? Yes or no? The only metric you've got is, oh, I might have worked a bit harder, or I might have sweat. You've got no metric to measure that with. Whereas at least with lifting weights, you can measure, am I getting stronger? With running, am I running longer or am I running the same length in shorter periods of time? Like there needs to be some form of leveling up, something that's measurable, which also ties into two. There has to be movement at some point every single day, regardless. Motion is lotion. You sit still all day, you're going to be sat in your feelings. You're going to be sat feeling shit. Whether you go for a walk, you can very quickly and easily divert your mood and your attention. I am a big believer that yes, you can change your mood, you can change your emotion very quickly. I don't care what you're going through, no matter how bad it is. You need to be very good at learning how to distract what needs distracting to stop you going down bad rabbit holes. But I sometimes will catch myself, because don't get me wrong, going through what I've been through in life, it still comes and bites me in the ass most days at stages, but I'll become very quickly good at nipping it in the bud. If I'm noticing I'm procrastinating, not doing certain things, feeling like shit, I know I need to do something to change my state and how it is that I feel. So I'll take the dogs around the block. I'll go out in the car and I'll just go to the shop. I'll just go and do something. I'll look at my tasks that need to be done that day and I'll rejig them around just so I can get out of my environment, change what I'm focusing on, change where my attention is, make something. Then I'll come back and revisit it in a different state and then go for it again. So there has to be some form of movement, distraction, distraction, smart distraction, whatever you want to call it. Can't think of a word for it. Like, I think that's a huge thing. And then there's a third one. I can't really tell you if I was to give you three. I think having a connection, there has to be a connection with people. So every single day, I'm a big fan of creating connections with people, speaking to people that you're friends, speaking to people that you actually care about, speaking to people that like you value. But actually, no, I can tie it into what it is for me. It's giving. You need to give. My biggest value in life is giving. When I give to people, I feel good. when I do things, it makes me feel good. Like when I help you out or any other coaches, or I help my fitness clients or anything like that, makes me feel good. When I speak to a stranger and I know that I've helped them solve a problem, it makes me feel good. So that's for me. Like as long as every day I'm giving somewhere to someone that I know will benefit from me, that makes me feel great. When I make sure that I'm moving and keeping active, that makes me feel great. When I'm progressing, that makes me feel great. Like I think those are probably the three biggest things I have to do. If any one of them's lacking, like I notice it has an impact on me.
I love that, mate. I really do. I think it's no secret or surprise or shock when people have their own way of explaining it, right? From Luke John Harrison to Harry Purdy to Brad Rix to Paul Mort, all of the things that we speak about in terms of improving mood, improving energy, our states, they're all similar, but we've all got our own way of how we coach them. And I think that's insane. The thing about giving as well, I saw a little Instagram post yesterday that I was like, wow, that's so true. And it was just a perfect reminder. It was it was basically like two circles. One of them was you, and then the other one was like another circle with a different color. And it was how you make somebody feel when you say that you're proud of them. And then it was like a big blooming, like it was almost like a flower that had blossomed. And then it was how you look compared to somebody that you've just said that you're grateful for. How, and then literally after about 5 or 6 different examples of this, it was how you feel when you've given somebody that compliment. And the flower was like enormous. And I think it's so true. When we give and when we give value and when we make other people feel good, it's almost one of the biggest creators of mini healthy, safe dopamine that we can give
Do you know, I
or
think it
get.
might be though. It's funny you say it because it's something that I've been thinking about and pondering a lot. Sometimes I like to think really deep, and that's a scary thing, right? But sit and think about when you feel low, when you feel crap, when your energy's low, you feel like you're beneath everyone. You feel low, you feel crap, you feel like everybody's doing better than you, everyone's doing better than you. So when you give to someone and you see that they're appreciative of it, they are better after it, they thank you for it, and you literally see energy come off of them from it, you suddenly realize that you're not below anyone because you've actually just bigged someone else up. So if you're able to big someone else up, you can only give if you've got more energy to that person to give off some of your energy to make that happen, right? So I think it just helps put you in a perspective that you still have value and you're still valuable to people. Because when we feel low, when we feel crap, when we feel depressed, we don't feel valuable at all.
You're essentially saying that if you gave that compliment, they wouldn't take it seriously if they didn't value you, right?
Yeah, so I think it's just a way of like almost reaffirming to yourself that you are worth something. So as much as I got to a stage where like I love giving and I love giving value, but when I get let down or people wouldn't give me the same thing back, I used to feel really shit about it. And it probably wasn't only until about 2 or 3 years ago. Funny enough, it was one of the quarterlies, and I had this big realization. I was like, I love giving and I don't need anything in return. So if I give people presents, I'm terrible for this. Buying partners, friends, presents, right? I don't ever expect it back. And if I don't get anything, I don't even feel bad about it. But I used to, because I used to be like, if I give you this, it's common courtesy to give something back, right? But I actually learned that, like, for example, Kaylee is a primary example. When I first like got with her, I used to give her gifts all the time. She used to get really aggy at me about it. I had to say to her, like, I don't. She was like, but I can't get anything back. I was like, I don't want anything. Like, just take it. It makes me feel good giving it to you. Like, just fucking shut up and take it. And it wasn't until like situations like that I really realized that it makes me feel good being able to do that. I don't need it back from someone else. But when I feel low, some of the best things that I can do is right. I feel crap. I feel low. I feel worthless. Who can I go and help today? And then it was only by doing that I noticed that's where I get my biggest energy from. Like you'll notice because you deal with me on a day-to-day basis. I over deliver as much as I can to anyone. Why? Because I love giving. I love helping. I love sharing anything that I can physically share that will help. Like I'd say one of my biggest mottos, and I think I told you this before, is like I always want to leave someone better than I found them. Always. Regardless of what it is. I don't care if like as a homeless person, I just sat there and had a conversation with outside of a shop. I want to leave you better than I found you. Whether that's from a conversation, like I won't give money to them because, again, from seeing what most of them do and the life that I was brought up around, I'm not going to be part of that perpetual cycle, right? So for me, it's like, how can I make someone feel better? Can I have a bit of a laugh and can I have a joke? Can I smile at a stranger? Like people that I know, can I just say a random like hey to one of my friends? Like makes me feel good. And as long as I do that, like it almost like refills me. Like I don't need someone to fill my cup. Only I can do that. And I found the ways that I do that is by giving to other people more than anything.
And I think a lot of that can be, you can kind of dampen your own shadow and keep yourself almost in the mix of the rough grass by worrying what other people will think for doing those things, right? So it's not very common in the 21st century to want to have a conversation with a stranger. It's not very common to say good morning to somebody when you're passing in the street now, especially in the bigger cities and where everybody's so divertly, their
Especially
attention's
down south.
diverted to their phones.
Down
Yeah,
south,
down
basically.
south. Yeah, yeah. But I'll always make sure, especially when I'm on my long runs, it's like just a nice little change of attention when I pass somebody in the street and I can be like, morning, sort of thing. And you kind of like see their reaction, like, what the fuck? Like, where's this
But
guy's
it's
energy
one
come
of those,
from?
what you say could be the thing that is the catalyst that helps their life be better. Like they
Yeah,
could be on a really bad day, and you never know. Like what I like to think that anything you say, anything you do, could be the catalyst that helps that one person have the fucking best day that they possibly could have had.
yeah, man. I think it's so true. And I think our actions and the way we can act as individuals in general can have a way bigger impact on our own environment than what we actually give it credit for.
Oh mate, 100%. Yeah, like 100%. I think that's why we've got to make sure that we're always not just giving to ourselves, but give to other people. And I
Yeah,
think the problem is finding that balance to make sure that you're not just always giving to other people, because that's when then you end up with nothing left for yourself, and then you don't give anything to yourself, and then you wonder why you're in a rut.
for sure, mate. For sure. Brad, we've been rolling a little while now. I was going to ask you two more questions, but I'm going to keep that question. It's about the fitness industry, but I want to keep it very related to you and your insights and your lessons for today's pod. So, two questions for you before we wrap up. First of the two is, what is next for Mr. Bradley Rix?
Very tough one. I'm still deciding it. I'm currently in a position where I am exploring another business that I'm kind of doing quite well in already, and it's exciting and it's nice to see and it's nice to give value and all my years experience in helping people think and feel slightly differently. But I'm also in the process of rebuilding and restripping out my actual current fitness business to be a bit more aligned with how it is that I like to coach people. I don't like the whole just fat loss and fitness thing. And I've always been very big on mindset and teaching mindset, but I'm very much integrally making how people think, feel, react, and feel as a huge part of what it is that I do. So I'm currently
Sick.
in the process of building that out and then getting other coaches with other skill sets that are better than me to come in so that ultimately we're much more than just a transformational weight loss type of program, but we're actually helping people be better parents, better owners, better bosses, better husbands, better wives, and ultimately just moving down a route of personal development rather than just typical fitness.
Perfect, mate. Great answer. And then finally for today, mate, what is the greatest bit of advice that you've ever been given?
Great bit of advice. Fuck how you feel.
Like how you feel still. Nice.
And the reason for that though, because some people would just be like, yeah, but if I feel like shit, I feel like shit. Learn to be able to completely detach yourself from how it is that you're feeling and ask yourself the questions anyway. And the biggest thing that helped me with that was actually probably the book, The Chimp Paradox.
Yeah, man. Fucking right.
100%.
Love that book so much. It was honestly that and the subtle art of not giving a fuck were
Yeah. Yeah.
the pure starters of my passion for this. Like I call it the self-development game because it really is. But if you can read them two books and they will change. I believe that if you read them properly and you take action on them and understand them, they will change your life for sure. Completely agree with you,
And
Brad.
one with
Go on.
the Chimp Paradox, I've actually read it 4 times. And every time I've read it, I've took something new from it, depending on where I'm at in my life. So read it more than
Reread it.
once.
Reread it. Nice, mate. So, Brad, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Where can people, if they've enjoyed listening to you and your Dorset tones, come and find you if they want to come find you?
So if you want me on Facebook, it's just Bradley Rix, Rix, and if it's on Instagram, then Body Drop Brad.
Perfect. And if you have enjoyed today's episode, please go over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and drop this show a 5-star review. Don't forget to subscribe as well. You'll get the new episodes landing in your downloads every week. And if you are watching on YouTube, hello, like, subscribe below, down here somewhere. Make sure you click it. And I'll see you here with a new episode every Friday. Take care.